what has happened in the United States, which somehow was shocking. And Rich Charlie Kirk was shot dead, and when he was talking at the university campus in Utah, if I'm not mistaken, talking to audience, and the president of the United States came out and put the blame on the far left. And what's going on in the United States today, in your opinion, that they try to picture what's going on, the violence, and put it the blame on the left, right, and whatever? What is your take on that?
My take on that is that the fundamental difficulty of the United States today is a declining capitalist system. The empire is in tatters, it barely exists. The domestic economy, yesterday, Jamie Dimon, the head of the largest bank in the United States, gave an interview, actually, two or three of them, and talked about the weakening U.S. economy. Now, he always talks as if he were a spectator rather than one of the people responsible for it. That's cute. Hopefully, nobody's fooled. But there he is, admitting what the others are afraid to admit, but pretending he's a spectator. Well, Mr. Trump pretends in a different way, but is dealing with the same weakening economy and the same vanishing empire and the same hobbled capitalism. But Mr. Trump's specialty, and that goes back to the first time he became a serious public figure, if you remember, riding down that escalator somewhere in New York City and explaining to the world that the problems we face are about Mexican immigrants, whom he then slandered. Mr. Trump specializes, as leaders often do in declining empires, in finding scapegoats. Mexicans are scapegoats. The Chinese are scapegoats. And the American left, that he understands as well as he understands everything else, namely not at all, is likewise now going to be a scapegoat. When you can't fix a problem, you blame somebody for it to detract from your failure to fix it. Mr. Trump told us he was going to end the war in Ukraine in a matter of days or weeks. False. He was going to end the war in Gaza in a short time. False. He's actually gone to war in Iran, a war that wasn't there when he became president, and he's gearing up, evidently, to do the same to Venezuela. The man is finding people around the world to blame. I want to remind people, it's a parallel I would take seriously. Germany, in the years before Hitler, faced the loss of its empire. That was accomplished in World War I, when literally the German Empire in Africa, Asia, was taken away by the winning side of World War I. So the Germans lost their empire. In 1923, they had the worst inflation in modern history that wiped out their entire middle class. All their savings accumulated over the 19th century were lost. And it ended up by the end of 1923, all those savings were barely enough to get you a quarter pound of butter at the local store. And then in 1929, as we all know, the Great Depression hit. So in a very few years, 1918 to 1933, or 1929 if you like, the German working class was really whacked. And in desperation, they turned to a leader who promised them, I'll fix it right away, and here are the scapegoats: Jews, Roma people, Slavic people, all the collection of scapegoats Mr. Hitler specialized in. And then he went to war in order to distract the people from what was happening at home so they could focus on the glorious victories being achieved abroad. If it sounds familiar, it should. And if you think that I'm telling you a story that gets you depressed, don't be. Today's headlines are full of what the French people just did, saying, we're not going to tolerate this. And in Nepal, halfway across the world, another group, another people are rising up and saying no. The really question, the important question, is not that Mr. Trump has found the left to scapegoat, that he wants to turn a killing in Utah into something more he can say. Arresting somebody of Mexican descent in order to slander Mexico as a whole. Cheap shot. We all kind of know better. But yeah, he'll try. And you know what that shows? Desperation is what it shows. And that desperation is first and foremost economic. We're facing a risk of inflation. We're facing the risk of a recession. Our foreign connections are falling apart. The rest of the world is mobilizing to go around us, to isolate us. That's the reality. Meanwhile, the inequality in wealth and income gets worse and worse. And we just had a spectacle in which the board of directors of a typical American mega capitalist company, Tesla, offers its own CEO a pay package over the next few years worth $1 trillion. That's the achievement of capitalism, to make the already richest person even richer than he has been up until now. It is obscene and it will not last.
Well, Richard is quite right in pointing to the weakening of the U.S. economy and to the desperation that is guiding Trump's domestic policy. But I think that his dream that somehow you can reverse America's deindustrialization involves subordinating its allies and turning them into subsidiaries of a shrinking U.S. West. Richard quite rightly points to the fact that, well, the rest of the world is opposed by this. The rest of the world, meaning the SCO, the BRICS, Russia, China, the East Asia, the successful economies that continue to grow. But I think that Trump has a proactive, not Trump, I should say the deep state, of which Trump is simply acting as the front man, has a proactive response to all of this. And he says, well, I've applied my tariffs and to threaten to cause chaos to other countries if they don't support and subsidize the United States economy. The threats of tariffs and the sanctions didn't work against Russia, didn't work against Iran. China is too independent for it to work then. So we're not going to try to spend and dissipate any more U.S. wealth fighting Russia, at least Russia, and even trying to increase the Cold War. What we can do is consolidate our control over the Western economies. And if American firms won't reindustrialize, we can tell Europe, Korea, and Japan to dismantle their own industry and relocate their industry in the United States, and they will reindustrialize the United States. I think that what you can think of what the U.S. is trying to do in response to its decline is to imitate what the British Empire did in the 19th century. It's treating its allies as colonies, just like Britain treated India and other countries, to sort of say, keep your savings in pound sterling, keep your savings in Britain, don't industrialize yourself, but become dependent on American industry. What makes Trump realize that there has to be a shift is there isn't American industry for them to become dependent on. So he's told the European industry, especially the Germans, to relocate in the United States, to tell Korea that, well, if you want to make money and profit selling cars, relocate Hyundai's production in the United States, and to tell Japan you can avoid the disruption of imposing heavy tariffs on you by lending the United States $500 billion by the time my 4-year presidency is up. And you will give us $1 trillion. You will have no control over this. I will have total personal control over what's going to happen. And after we make investments and you will be repaid your $500 billion, America will have 90% of the profits from your investment here. Not 50%, as the Japanese press originally reported, but only 10%. Well, none of the details of this agreement with Japan have been released yet, but the Financial Times today had just a wonderful discussion saying how horrendous the agreement with Japan is. And the Financial Times reporter leaked it all and reported a glowing Lutnick, who, the American negotiator, appeared on CNBC and said, this is the most fun he's had working for this period, and Trump has complete discussion. And the Financial Times describes this secret agreement that has not yet been made published by Japan, because you can imagine what the Japanese public would feel if this agreement were made public. And the Financial Times said this, quotes, reeks of coercion, a sovereign nation forced to funnel private and public sector investment to a much richer one under the structures unashamedly directed by the U.S. president. Well, you can see the problems, and the most abject surrender has been that of Germany and Europe, and there's been hardly any coverage in the U.S. press of the bait and switch that America had with von der Leyen said, we will do whatever you want, President Trump, as long as you give us security and at least we know what's going to happen so that you will protect us from Russia invading us. What happened was there's no security at all. Trump agreed not to impose punitive tariffs on Europe, but all of a sudden he changed his mind. And instead of the lowering the tariffs from 25% for 15%, he said, well, we're still going to keep the tariffs we have, 50% on steel and aluminum. And if it happens that any of your manufacturers contain steel or aluminum, up to 50%. Well, this is treating Europe just like industry. Well, there's been a cry out of the European industrialists saying, wait a minute, if when we do make a manufactured good, it does include steel and aluminum, and we're going to have to close down our operations. Well, Trump says, well, there is a solution. You can avoid the tariffs by relocating in the United States and doing the kind of deal that Hyundai has done in the United States, that Japan has done. This is a shakedown, pure and simple, and you can see what is happening. The SCO and the BRICS are seeing that it's so fortunate that they didn't even try to engage with negotiations of tariff. They just, with Trump, go your own way. And you're seeing the world really dividing into what the United States can retain from the countries it defeated in World War II, Germany, and Japan and the Korean War in 1951. They all have the Stockholm syndrome among their leaders. They somehow identify with the victor, and the United States has been able to carve them out. And that's the proactive response to all this. And none of this has to do with what you'd call the left. We're talking about national interests, but I'm sure that Trump will accuse foreign opponents of saying, wait a minute, we want Japan to have the profits from its investments. We want Korea to be able to bring our skilled labor over when the United States does not have contractors that can build the Hyundai factory. And the Germans who say, well, we can't just relocate to the United States. It takes years to build a factory. We'll go bankrupt in the process. This is Trump's response to the world. And I think that goes beyond anything that the left or even the right had even dreamed of a year ago before Trump won.